Today, we're going to talk about the effects of this pandemic on the children struggling to read on grade level. We realize that we are in the midst of a pandemic and our children are suffering. Many of them are learning face to face, and some of them are learning virtually. The ones learning virtually are only allotted 2 hours a day for 4 subjects for 4 days a week, and we realize that that just isn't enough. The ones learning face to face run the risk of the schools closing down without proper notice and them being given a packet of work to take home to complete on their own. And we know that this just isn't enough for our kids' reading skills. Some issues, problems, and the topic. The topic is children reading skills are declining due to the amount of time spent in the classroom. The issue is our children are struggling to read on grade level, and then this pandemic hit. The children not having the support nor resources needed to improve their reading skills. And many children are not reading on grade level because of this pandemic and schools being closed. As a result of this, children reading skills will suffer even more. Some regulations and policies. The first one is elementary and secondary education, which was once known as No Child Left Behind, is a policy that states that all children should have an equal opportunity for academic achievement. IEP is a policy put in place for children who learn and think differently. This is for our special education kids. And then we have an EIP, which is a plan put in place for children who are performing below grade level. Promotion and retention requirements says that all students in grades 3 and 5 must pass the state mandated assessment in order to be promoted to the next grade. And it also states that they must pass math and reading, science, or either social studies in order to be promoted to the next grade. And then we have the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, which is a law that protects the privacy of our children. Some ethical factors to consider. Administering interventions with fidelity. This has to be done with fidelity. The lack of support for children with behavior concerns. The lack of support for children who are more than 2 or more grade levels behind in reading. And also, we must have a safe, supportive, and fun learning environment for all children. Stakeholders. Stakeholders refer to anyone who is invested in the welfare and the success of our school and its students. We have teachers and other staff located at the particular school. We have our children, the ones who we are advocating for. We have our families. We have to advocate for them too, because when the school closed, it affects them too. When the children don't read on grade level, this affects their families too. And then we have the school administration who's gonna stand beside us along the way. They're gonna support what we are doing for our kids. Next, we have a list of organizations who are going to support our advocacy plan. First, the National Association for Education of Young Children, and they're for all children. They are for connecting early childhood practices and policies so that it can support our children. The National Education Association is an advocate for education professionals and uniting everyone so that public education can prepare students for the real world. Then next we have the Parent Teacher Association that empowers families and communities to advocate for all children. Their goal is to provide a nurturing and loving environment. And finally, we have the International Literacy Association, which promotes reading by improving the quality of literacy instruction provided in classrooms. Funding sources. We have several funding sources. First, we have school Title I funds, which are funds set aside for resources And then we have community members who can donate their time. They can donate resources that we can use in the classroom. We have local businesses who also can donate resources that they can donate incentives that we can give our kids. And then we have the state, which provides funds to our local board of education for us to purchase resources. And then we have our teachers who provide resources for their classroom on a daily basis. Next, ways the data can inform. After administering assessment, we can use the data to pinpoint exact areas of struggles. We can also use the data to inform how we choose our groups, how we create seating charts, and how we differentiate for individuals. Differentiation is important in our classroom because our kids, they struggle with different skills, and we don't want to be providing them with things that they don't need. And then our data will drive our instruction. It'll let us know what we need to be teaching and what we don't need to be teaching. So those are ways that our data can inform. Target audiences. We have our school staff, our school administration, our district leaders, and our state superintendent. Each need to be aware of this advocacy plan, because they are the ones that are going to help us to put this in place so that we can do what we need to do for our kids that are struggling to read on grade level. And my message to you today is, now that we realize there is a problem, let us do what it takes to solve it. Let's work together to provide strategies that will assist us in closing the gaps in our children's reading skills so that this pandemic will not have a lasting effect. As an advocate of kids, we must be passionate, trustworthy, honest, dependable, and a good listener. Necessary resources. We have to have our resources in order for this to work. We need funds, Title I funds, district funds, and state funds. And with the funds, we can purchase these books we need. We need books that are on grade level, books below grade level, books of different topics. We also need technology. And with the technology, we need research-based programs that are proven to work. We also need volunteer tutors to come in. We can even have our high kids to tutor our low kids. And we need intervention materials such as games, task cards, tape recorders, and etc. Goals. Goals give you long-term visions and short-term motivation. So my 6 months goal is for 10% of the children reading 2 or more grade levels below. We will close that gap by at least 1 grade level, 10%. 2 years, by the end of 2 years, 50% of our students will be reading at or above grade level. And my long-term goal is, by the end of 5 years, at least 80% of our students will be reading at or above grade level. Evaluate the ways that we're going to evaluate and monitor our kids' success, because it has to be evaluated and monitored. We're going to use benchmark data. We're going to provide assessments at the beginning, middle, and end of the year, and then we're going to use that data to determine whether or not what we're doing are working. And we can also compare that data to our previous years. And we can also use end of the year state assessment data. We can use classroom assessments, quick checks, observation, ticket out the doors, and etc. We have to keep documentation so that we can determine whether or not what we are doing are working. In conclusion, I have provided you with some references for your future. I also hope that you have gained something from this presentation to help us to understand the importance of advocating for our kids. We understand that we are in the midst of a pandemic and our students' reading skills are struggling. But as an advocate, we have to step in and do what we got to do in order to assist them in this area, because the pandemic is not going away. So it's time for us to put some things in place so that we can help them, so that they won't struggle and they won't be so far behind. Thank you.